The Switch has such a massive library with something for everyone in it. We all know about stuff like Celeste and Super Meat Boy as some of the really difficult games on the system, but I want to take a look at some lesser known ones that are in many cases even more difficult than those classics. So let me know in the comments what are some of your favorite difficult games on the Switch, and leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and let's get into it. Mr. Run and Jump is a brutally hard precision platformer. The game starts out like an Atari 2600 game. You run through a few simple screens and then the whole world goes crazy. There's a void overtaking the world and the previously drab and mundane world comes to life with vibrant psychedelic colors. The visual style in this game is phenomenal. The sprite work is simple enough to try to kind of emulate things that could have been done on an old Atari, but they are given a ton of flair with bright colors and a really catchy soundtrack. The first world is not too bad. There are a lot of collectibles and you have a really fun moveset consisting of air dashes, long jumps, double jumps, high jumps, and wall jumps. You have all these moves unlocked from the start, but the first level introduces them to you so you can learn how they work. The first world is challenging but fair. I was able to beat all the levels without too much trouble and even managed to 100% all of them, but the difficulty takes an extreme spike in World 2 and it just keeps spiking. The level design is great, the controls are smooth, but it is brutally difficult. The game does give you cheats though. You die too much on a level and they provide you with an invincibility star or extra checkpoints to make it through a tough part. There's a cool feature which you could turn off or just choose to ignore if you want to challenge yourself. There are 5 total worlds and 1 hidden world that you can unlock by collecting everything. This is supposed to be even more difficult, which honestly is hard for me to imagine this game getting any harder. I made it to the 4th world without having to cheat too much, but eventually just got to the point where I couldn't pass the screen without cheating and just gave up. This is a great game though. If you like precision platformers and want a challenge, it is well worth picking up. Just a little too hard for me though. Ganryu 2 is an impossibly difficult game that is a sequel to an old Neo Geo game. This has been on my backlog forever, and I heard it was hard, so I thought I would try it to see if it would fit into this episode. I had no idea the poop storm I was about to walk into. You play as Musashi. His rival comes back from the dead and brings the whole demon world back with him. You then embark on a quest to defeat him and the demons. The control in this game is just kind of awkward. Your character walks really slow, and the buttons aren't where they should be. Your primary method of attack is your sword, and it is assigned to the X button. How unbelievably weird is that? You could dash by double tapping forward and throw a limited number of shuriken by pressing Y. You have a tiny life bar and there are tons of enemies everywhere. Slicing them up is pretty satisfying and the level design was generally kind of fun. They just have one ridiculous design decision that just ruins the game. You get 3 lives and when you die you are thrust back to the beginning of the world. Now this is not uncommon in retro games and I normally don't mind, but here you are thrust back to the beginning of the world, not just the level. So if you die on 1-2 for example, you go back to the beginning of the game. It was just too punishing for me to want to continue. The game itself is very difficult, so you're going to die a lot, but it's learnable. I just can't justify having to replay long sections when I die near the end. Now I'm talking like 30 minutes at a time. It's just a little ridiculous, and I gave up before I even beat the first world. Although I think I was at the boss of the first world. It's a shame though. I think with the more generous checkpoint system, or even just to be able to continue from the beginning of the level, I would have persevered because I was having fun, but as it stands now, it's just too difficult. Natsume has made some really incredible re-releases of their classic games like Pocky and Rocky Reshine and Wild Guns Reloaded. While these games are great, I think their best effort is Shadow of the Ninja Reborn. The other re-releases stick very close to the original with some minor enhancements like maybe extra characters, but Shadow of the Ninja is a complete overhaul in graphics, gameplay, and level design. I love the look of this game. It's beautifully redone and runs really smooth, but this isn't a list about good-looking games, it's about difficult ones, and my god is this game hard. You get a generous life bar, and falling into a pit does not kill you, it just takes off a sliver of health, but the moment-to-moment gameplay is relentless with really difficult enemies, obstacles to avoid, and tough platforming challenges. The distance between checkpoints is fairly lengthy, so you're really going to have to spend some time mastering each section before you are successful. I found myself replaying some of these over and over and over again. You got a ton of different items to help you, but selecting them in the heat of combat is kind of clunky, as time does not stop as you are changing item, and the sub-weapons are kind of a mixed bag. Many of them are totally useless, and I end up dying trying to use them, where I would have been better just using my default arsenal. The game does throw you a bone though. As you die more and more, you will respawn with additional power-ups, giving you access to more health and sword upgrades. This was an absolute lifesaver for scrubs like me, and it got to the point in the later levels where I would just kill myself over and over again until I had a whole bunch of health in reserve before I would even attempt to tackle some of these sections. It's a fantastic game though. It is really difficult, but the accessibility options means anyone can complete it with enough patience. At the same time, the fast ninja action here is incredible. You get this chain weapon, which is really fun to use. It makes the combat very dynamic and sets it apart from its peers. I love what they did with the bosses. They were all familiar to anyone who played the 8-bit original, but completely redone so you don't feel like you're just having the same battles you did on the original Nintendo. I feel like this game is a true hidden gem and should be talked about along with the other great ninja games on the Switch like Ragebound and Art of Vengeance. Most of the games on this list are pretty obscure, but I'm going to say that Spinch is the most obscure and the one that almost nobody has played. You play as a little colorless blob in a world full of eye-popping colors, trying to rescue your little ones from the ravenous color monsters trying to eat them. The gameplay is a precision platformer with an emphasis on speed. Your moveset is really simple. You could dash both on the ground and midair, and you get a wall jump, and that's about it. While the controls are simple, the levels are not. You do get a health bar, but there are pits everywhere and checkpoints few and far between. Be prepared to be sent back a frustratingly long distance with some of these deaths. There are also a ton of levels where something is chasing you or you have to run to a safe spot before you die. Probably about half the levels fall into this category, and these are extraordinarily difficult. You have very little wiggle room and have to be extremely precise in your movements, something that is increasingly difficult as you are starting to panic as instant death encroaches upon you. You have to rescue 3 little pals in each level. While these are optional, they really are not. The more of these collect, the more ammo you have to fight the world bosses, so you're not going to want to leave these little guys behind. The good news is, if you rescue one and die before you reach a checkpoint, he stays rescued. This was extremely helpful, as many times I died right after I rescued someone, but I was able to progress in spite of that. I made it pretty far in this game, but eventually just got too much. I think I may have even been on the last world or very close to it. It's a fun game with a great visual style and unique gameplay. If you want a challenge, definitely check this one out. Shadow Labyrinth is an extremely difficult Metroidvania that has you playing as Pac-Man? Yeah, it's kind of a weird concept. You play as Pac-Man and you are guiding a warrior with a sword. There are even these little on-rail sections where you literally just play as Pac-Man and gobble up dots, which can be used as currency to upgrade your character and buy items. You even fight some of the ghosts as bosses, although they are not quite what you'd imagine when I say that. This is such a cool game with a cool concept, but it is really difficult. The game itself is huge. I couldn't finish it, but I've heard it's a good 40-hour adventure to beat the first time. I am generally not good at Metroidvanias as I get lost easily, and this map is huge with plenty to explore. What they don't offer you plenty of is checkpoints. Checkpoints are so few and far between, so be prepared to do a ton of backtracking between deaths. The difficulty level is high, the enemies are dangerous, you don't get much health, and while you get a flask a la Dark Souls, it never really is enough. Combat is good, your sword swipes have some nice weight to them, you get some cool special moves as well as an invincible dodge roll, and the enemies do have good tells, so nothing feels cheap. Still didn't stop me from dying a ton, and ultimately, between the intensely long backtracking and frequent deaths, it just got too much for me. I still did enjoy my time with this game, and I think if you're looking for a really big, really difficult Metroidvania, this could fit the bill. It is definitely one of those really difficult games that no one really talks about for its difficulty, but it is most definitely up there. Tiny Thor is an action puzzle platformer that has you playing as a young Thor before he officially became a god. It is his birthday, and Odin and the rest of Asgard are planning a nice birthday party for him. Loki appears and tricks Thor into going on a quest to stop an evil bee from ruining Asgard and his party. I won't get into any more than that, but the story is what you'd expect. It's solid, moves the game along, and of course, there's some threat of Ragnarok being triggered, which is kind of standard for these stories. This is a gorgeous game. The sprite work is really solid. I love the character design. I'm a big fan of Thor and Norse mythology, and I think they did a great job of taking that world and translating it into an adorable sprite-based game. Thor has his hammer, which can be thrown and ricochets all over the place. You could always hit the attack button again to bring the hammer back to his hands. You can also hold the trigger to aim the hammer. When you do this, you get an outline that shows you the path the hammer will take. This is really useful as there are a number of times where you must make trick throws in order to trigger a switch or solve a puzzle or some other thing. It's a good mechanic that they use in a ton of creative ways and really does justice to the character. There are lots of collectibles in this game. Each level has these little blue gems, which are the game's currency, used to buy upgrades, and 3 hidden red gems that are used to unlock challenge levels. Gameplay is a mix of puzzle and precision platforming. So one minute you'll be navigating some really tricky jumps, then you get to catch your breath to solve a puzzle before moving on. Both the puzzles and the platforming are difficult, and both will force you to use your abilities in ways that are not always obvious. The game does a really fantastic job of constantly throwing something new at you, and really making you think about how to proceed. You get new abilities as the game progresses, like a double jump and a wall dash. I have to say, I like this game, but it's just too difficult. This is actually, I think, the most exhausting game I've ever played in my life. Levels are long, usually a good 20 minutes plus per level. And sure, there are checkpoints, but they're not that close to each other. My body actually ached while playing this game. I was tense every second of every level. You just pray to see your next checkpoint, and they feel like they never come. You also die in one hit. Yeah, sure, you can find these little hearts that give you an extra hit, and you can even retrieve it if you get hit, but it just bounces around everywhere with a timer counting down, and usually you die trying to retrieve it. You combine all this, and it's just exhausting. There are jumps that require razor-sharp precision. Enemies that have really erratic movements that take multiple hits to kill. There are instant death traps everywhere, some trial and error, and you finally complete a really difficult part and bang, now you're stuck on a puzzle. I don't think I've ever been so mentally and physically exhausted in my entire life, and that includes my powerlifting and mixed martial arts routines. One level in this game is more exhausting than a 2-hour deadlift workout. I made it to level 17. Then I looked up how many levels there were on the internet because I just couldn't take it anymore. But thought, well, if I'm close, I'll tough it out. The Googles told me there were 30 levels, which meant that I was just over halfway through and I had to tap out, or I literally might have had a nervous breakdown. I actually think this is an excellent game. If you're really good at games and want a severe challenge, give it a shot. It's well made, it's fun, it controls well, has a great mythology behind it with lots of secrets and areas to cover. I didn't even talk about the bosses, which the few that I fought were difficult but really fun to learn. It's just too hardcore for me and I had to stop. If you don't like challenge, you should stay far away from this game. But if you're a masochist, give it a shot.